Hello, and welcome to the 8th Minute, our bonus podcast here at 7 Minutes. It's not part of the regular schedule, but we couldn't help but notice that the Electronic Entertainment Expo happened and Summer Game Fest before that, and there were a lot of game announcements, discoveries, etc. And, you know, we kind of exploded in discussion over text chat and thought, you know what? There's a lot to talk about. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. But
I want to be timely here at 7 Minutes.
Yeah. Before we jump in, my name is Zach, one of your co-hosts.
I am Robert.
I am Angela.
And we traditionally start our podcast episodes by talking about what we've been playing since we last recorded. I'll go ahead and kick us off. It will come as a shock to nobody in this room or in the world that I have continued to spend time with Final Fantasy XIV. I'm not going to dwell on that. I've also played more of Greedfall, which I had previously talked about. And I had written off finishing Genesis Noir, which I'd also previously talked about. Thought that was a little bit artsy and up its own butt and kind of boring to play. But it's also kind of nice to look at. And I was very lucky that my parents came up to visit so I saw them for the first time in a very, very long time. And while they were hanging out, we had the Xbox on. And I thought, you know what, this would be a nice game to show off because it's kind of a showy game more than it is much of anything else. So I ended up playing through the rest of it. And I'm sorry to say that my opinion of it changed 0%. I don't really recommend it. It does have some cool visuals. Doesn't make a ton of sense. It is one of those games that really makes me wish... I don't know. I don't want to blame this on Super Mario Brothers, but I feel like a lot of people... there's a game design thought that the way Super Mario Brothers level 1-1 teaches you to play or explains itself without words... has made a certain kind of indie developer fetishize wordless communication, even when it is to the detriment of the work in question. I felt that way to some extent about Hyper Light Drifter, and I really feel that way about this. I think there might have been some message that it was trying to get across, but, you know, it's like trying to have like a dolphin explain philosophy to you. You're only going to be able to get so much of what he's trying to communicate because he can't talk. I've also been replaying the original Baldur's Gate, which I played a few years ago and wasn't that keen on, but I thought I'd try it again, take a less completionist approach, and also doing kind of an evil party approach, which is not what I would normally do in a game like this, but there's a lot of civilian murder happening, a lot of pillaging. I'm enjoying that as far as it goes. I think that's about it for me.
Robert, you want to go next?
I've been a terrible gamer. I have not really been playing too much, although I did pick up the Fortnite Joy-Con in my sad attempts to try to have all of the Joy-Con for my Switch. I think the only ones I'm missing are... I don't have the stock gray Joy-Con. I'm also missing the neon blue and red, both sides. And then I think the Mario set. Otherwise, I pretty much have everything.
Do you have the neon yellow like I do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Although the purple and the orange and the first blue that came out, because the Fortnite one's slightly different, those I think have their opposites in Japan, and I haven't tracked them down. Because that's what I did for the Splatoon set, because they had the standalone edition, but then like if you bought the Splatoon Switch, which the only thing that made it Splatoon was the pink and green Joy-Con, it was of course the opposite of the standalone set. And I just was like, I'm not buying that entire Switch for these, and so I ordered the opposites from Japan. So at some point when I'm not poverty-stricken, I'll have them all.
Do you use any of these Joy-Cons, or is it just...
Oh yeah, I switched through them.
Yeah?
It's quite enjoyable.
He was using the Fortnite ones yesterday, and I actually noticed them because the colors are kind of cool. And I said, oh, what Joy-Cons are those? And then he showed me the Fortnite symbol, and I got sad.
Object to them on principle.
Yeah.
I see.
So, yeah, I guess I don't really have anything to report on what I've been playing. I can say, though, that for boss fight books, I read Final Fantasy VI, which is by Sebastian, and I'm going to just mispronounce this. I think it's Deken. It's Deken. So, for people who don't know boss fight books, they do these little small publications that are about individual games, usually. So, they'll get an author, and that author will kind of do a critical analysis of these games from different perspectives. So the Final Fantasy VI book has been interesting because it's very focused on the music of the game, and it's written in a way that reminded me of Andrew Schartman's 33 and a Third, Koji Kondo's Super Mario Bros. Soundtrack, I think is the title. It's either soundtrack or score. And Bloomsbury puts out that series, and that series is entirely focused on music, and it's usually, pop music or classic music, jazz, whatever. But it was interesting because they did that one volume on the Koji Kondo soundtrack for Mario. And as I was reading Final Fantasy VI, I was like, oh, this reminds me of it. And then Deken quoted it. I was like, oh, I guess it reminded him of it too. It's really good so far. I think that it raises a lot of interesting points about the way that the music complements the gameplay, and that the way the music is written to illustrate certain things about the cast. I think that you will get more from it if you know more about music, because it's explicitly referencing music theory terms, and it shows bits of sheet music. But I think that Deken writes it just like Schartman did with 33 and a Third, where even if you're not a music person, you can still probably glom on to like 90% of what you're reading just from reference and the language that he uses. It's not like hyper focused on diction that only a musician's going to get. Like, a lay person can understand it.
What drew you to this book? Because the reason I'm asking is, as far as I know, you haven't played Final Fantasy VI, have you?
I've played a bit of it, but I was drawn to it because they offered us a review copy of it. And so I was like, oh, sure.
I see.
So they sent the EPUB file, and I decided to read it.
All right. Well, perhaps also, to no one's surprise who regularly listens to this podcast, Final Fantasy XIV has been my focus. Although a little less of my focus because I've kind of been obsessively playing Mario Kart Tour. I don't know why I've suddenly, gotten just so heavily back into it. I do think it's the characters, or rather like the different drivers. I really enjoy those. And it's also just fun because, Mario Kart Tour, it'll take these existing tracks, or they'll create new tracks, and there are multiple cups to play, and there will be trick courses, where there's just a bunch of different ramps or things that you can do tricks off of, and so you're creating a chain of tricks, and so the longer that you can keep this chain going, the higher your score. And so it's a little bit addictive because you're just like, oh well, how high can I get my score? And you will get bonuses depending on, like, if you have certain characters, like per race, you'll go to select your driver, and it'll tell you, well, if you use this driver, you'll get like a 1.5 or 2 point bonus, for using this driver. And then same if you use this cart, and same if you use this glider. And so once you're ready to start the race, if you're using like the right combo of driver, cart, glider, you can get some crazy score combos. And so it's just really, really fun to just keep trying to get up your score. And yeah. So I'm playing a lot of that.
That's an element of, it's not mobile gaming specifically, but like more modern game design that I find odious in some contexts, but like in some other contexts, is kind of like on a daily or weekly basis, nudging people to do different things, whether randomly or just, trying to like get them churning through different parts of the game that you've designed.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's working for you.
Yeah. I've also been playing a lot of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. And the Nintendo mobile games are really the only mobile games I have any patience for. There have been a couple just random ones that I've discovered over the years that are actually genuinely fun. There was like I think it was called Hello Kitty Cafe. There was one that was just called Burger or White Tile. And like some word games like Ruzzle or Bejeweled Blitz, which is not a word game. It's a puzzle game. But I have a lot of problems with mobile games. Like Frank Costanza, I've got a lot of problems with you people. But but the Nintendo ones, and especially Pocket Camp and Mario Kart Tour, have been like a big time sink for me. Yeah.
All right. Well, moving into things, as mentioned at the top, topic of this is just reacting to E3 and Summer Games Fest by proximity and similarity.
2021 edition.
Yeah. Yeah. So we actually had an episode where we talked a fair bit about E3s in general, like their history. But this is like really about the announcements, what we're excited about, what disgusts us, what are we let down by, what is way forward desecrated this year, etc.
Made better. Yes, indeed.
So, I don't know. Somebody kick it off. What was something that
Well, I'm going to talk about
stuck in your craw?
the most important announcement of E3.
Go on.
Cruisin' Blast coming to Nintendo Switch. So if you're a fan of Cruisin' USA, stuff like that, Cruisin' World, it's in a similar vein, arcade-style racer, and a physical edition is coming.
What's the vintage on Cruisin' Blast? Because it's not a name I'm familiar with. I don't know if it's like...
I think it's new.
Okay.
I'll admit I haven't really done any research. I was just like, Cruisin', I know that.
So you're like, I know the IP and I like buying physical things. Sold.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
It doesn't even need to actually turn on.
Okay.
No, but I think the most important announcement of E3 was Metroid Dread.
Yeah, it's I guess Prime 4 is not going well, right?
I don't know if it's not going well. I just think that they're slow with it because it didn't go well at first. And then they were like, hey, Retro, you actually know how to make these. Why don't you make the next one? And then Retro's like, okay, so we're going to do it right. And that's going to take a while.
So, like, Dread is being made. Dread was announced because Prime was not going to be ready anytime soon, right? Like, realistically, that's what happened, right?
That's how I kind of felt. I agree that Metroid Dread was actually the best thing for me personally that came out of E3. I'm really looking forward to it, but I also kind of thought this may have been the result of Metroid Prime 4 not really going well or going
I don't know,
slowly.
Though, I mean, we know that Dread has existed for a long time. It's at least 15 years since it was announced. It might have just been timing that worked out. Because they've been saying for years now that the Prime trilogy, quote unquote, was going to come to Switch and that was going to be the placeholder for Metroid Prime 4. So, like, maybe it's a little bit of both. Because, Mercury Steam made Samus Returns for 3DS.
Right.
As soon as I saw the 2D gameplay, I was like, oh, that's Mercury Steam.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I mean, and then you can see like the counter maneuver, right? Like the kind of counter punch swing.
And then the 360 degree, or what is that? Because it's 2D. It's not 360 degree?
It's still 360.
Okay, yeah. 360 degree aiming, that was also from Samus Returns. So I think that as soon as Samus Returns ended, they probably looked at Mercury Steam and are like, okay, go make another one. That was really good. And
I think I've read, I haven't tried to verify this, but that Mercury Steam didn't originally pitch making a remake of Metroid 2. They wanted to do something with Fusion. They wanted to like remake Fusion or something like that. At least I saw somebody say that. Don't know if that's true. And they got instead kind of, had it suggested to them like, well, no, but, how do you feel about making a remake of Metroid 2? I could see this being the case that like Mercury Steam is just like, has had other pitches they've made for Nintendo. And maybe Nintendo would have slept on it in other circumstances, right? But they're making it, so...
Yeah. So I think in terms of, going to the 2D perspective for it, all of it's cool. My only hesitancy is Sakamoto's attached to it. And when I think of Sakamoto now, I think of Other M. I blame him for Samus's crappy characterization in Other M. So, Samus Returns was a nice return to form. Samus is her old self again. So I'm just hoping that this game maintains her as we're familiar with her, and she isn't crying about the baby every 2 seconds like another M.
Yeah, I'd actually prefer if Samus just goes back to being silent.
Yeah, like we don't need the voice acting. And it wouldn't be the first time Nintendo's done that, because Mario Sunshine introduced quite a bit of voice acting, and then we haven't heard any of it since.
Which is unfortunate, because Toadsworth was really cute in that game, and the way he talked, and quite good.
Did both of you play Samus Returns?
I did. I beat it in 2 days.
I played I played some.
fairly.
I did not beat it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I stayed away from it. I didn't like the look of it.
What was the problem?
Well, I really liked Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, and I felt like that had atmosphere. I mean, you might hear like an echo of me being not interested in the Link's Awakening remake on the Switch.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Okay, that's fine. but Link's Awakening has this weird kind of like melancholy, dreamlike quality on the Game Boy, and to some extent, you're going to lose that if you move away from like a weird tiny monochrome system to something bigger. But it looked like there were other elements of Samus Returns that were less claustrophobic, less strange, less uncomfortable than Metroid 2. And so that was a bit of a turnoff for me.
Well, it's a lot splashier, no doubt. And then, this looks incredible, even though it's a 2D game. I don't know. I think it's interesting because we're like continuing to slowly have critics understand that visual styles matter in games. And like even with developers, like I think the Japanese developers are kind of the worst about embracing the pixel look of the games that they've made in the past. Because like Square, right, with all the really awful looking mobile ports of some of their older games. And it's like, don't you get that the pixels are why this looked good? I remember seeing, this is like in the 2000s, like
or Advance Wars.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Like the mid 2000s into like the 2010s. I just remember seeing people using computer programs to try to redraw sprites as like art as opposed to sprites. And every time I'd look and I'd be like, this looks awful. Like the sprite actually has more personality than what you've created because you're taking what is this sort of crude drawing and comparing it to the pixels, and the pixels actually had more life to it. And, when the N64 and PlayStation 1 popped up, you had that era of the 3D game. And, 2D games are what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Antiquated?
Antiquated. And as time has gone by, we've realized actually it's not antiquated. It's just what we now perceive as a style of graphics. And so like with Metroid 2, that pixel version and the lack of color is going to have a completely different feel than the 3DS version. And I think it's important to note those differences, but also to kind of respect that, just because it was this old black and white pixel game doesn't mean that the graphics were inferior in quotation marks. Like it actually had qualities that were unique and interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway.
The weird thing is like Japanese developers making new games, they still are producing quality pixel art. It's just, I think Japanese developers or Japanese publishers maybe are like less respectful of their old games.
Yeah.
Not even the old techniques necessarily, but like the old games.
Well, like I think in the Final Fantasy VI book, they were, I wish I could remember who Deken said was interviewed, but they were talking about Final Fantasy VI and how to this day it tops a lot of like best of lists for like either RPGs or Final Fantasy games. And whoever it was from the team at the time replied and said, well, you all love it so much, so why didn't you buy it when it came out? And I think to some extent that maybe sometimes they look at their older stuff and don't have the sort of attachment that we do. Because he's like, I think many of us, if Final Fantasy VI was to come back, would be like, yeah, give us that game with those beautiful pixel graphics and the same menus and everything. And someone at Square might be like, well, when we gave you that, you didn't want to buy it, so we're going to make it look a little more modern. It's like, no, don't touch it. Yeah, so I think, Metroid Dread was probably the best thing Nintendo announced.
Yeah, I was pretty frustrated with Nintendo this year. I don't want to start off complaining, but I guess that is actually what I'm doing. But the biggest thing being the Zelda 35, the treatment of Zelda's 35th and the lack of any, actual Zelda 35 celebration. Thought it was really interesting how Aonuma just came out and was like, the Zelda Game & Watch is the only thing that we're doing for Zelda's 35th. We are not making any other games. We are not having any other celebrations. This is it. Which I thought was funny because it was just kind of trying to get ahead, I guess, of people asking, so what else? What else is coming? And rumor mongering and guessing.
How is a $50 trinket with 3 ROMs on it not enough for you?
Now, I have mine pre-ordered.
Well, this is why they keep doing it.
However,
it should have been a part of
that's correct.
The celebration, not this is the thing.
Yeah, the snubbing of Zelda's 35th is bizarre. It's very, very weird to me.
Well, let's say one thing, though.
Yeah.
I do think they were a little coy. Because it wasn't that he necessarily came out and said, this is it. They said specifically, there are no other Zelda games coming to Switch this year that we haven't announced. So that kind of makes me think, I'm pretty positive that was the verbiage.
I don't think so. I thought that he said specifically, this is all that we're doing for Zelda's 35th.
No, I'm pretty sure he said that this is it for this year, is the games we've announced, but then they showed the Game & Watch. Because I took that as, I wonder if they're going to do what they did with Mario All-Stars. I think it was All-Stars. I know when they announced the 35th, anniversary plans for Mario, that it crept into the next year, right? So I'm of the assumption that Zelda's celebration is going to creep into next year, but that they have not solidified everything that they're going to do for it. That's what I think. Because, it seems so bizarre that you'd get the Game & Watch, and then, Skyward, when it came out, was technically part of, a big celebration of Zelda for that year. Because I think, was Skyward the 30th or the 25th? It was the 25th.
I think it was... Well, let's see. That was the Wii.
Wouldn't have been the 30th.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the 30th. Probably the 25th.
And there was a lot that they did for the 25th, but I remember Skyward was treated as this sort of centerpiece of it. So this year we have Skyward Sword HD coming out, and it has the Joy-Con that are part of it and the Amiibo. And all of that to me feels like it's, part of a celebration of the series for the 30th. Or for the 35th, I apologize.
Yeah, but it's everyone's least favorite Zelda, so it just doesn't feel that...
Is it everyone's least
Not
favorite?
Everyone's, but that was kind of our... You might remember we did an episode on the Zelda series, and that ended up being kind of like the consensus least favorite. You said it was your least favorite.
Did I?
Angela said it was her least favorite, and I said the only reason I wouldn't call it my least favorite is because I had only played an hour of it.
I don't remember it being my least favorite. Is it?
I want to suggest you go back and listen to episode 1.
Listen to the podcast, yes.
Yeah, I know I said Skyward was my least favorite, so...
I still want to play HD anyway, but...
Regardless of what specific verbiage was used in either Aonuma's statement or the English translation of Aonuma's statement...
Which I am verifying right now for my own curiosity.
Yeah, I can see that. Regardless, they can always just... tell us they've changed their mind later, right? Mm-hmm. So they always have the ability to say, actually, we've decided to release Wind Waker on the Switch also, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be very disappointed if they don't end up doing that, because my Wii U, the disc drive, stopped reading discs, and I'm not sure if they're going to fix it if I send it in. Somebody keeps telling me that... Nintendo isn't repairing Wii U's anymore. I gotta double check that.
If it's like the Wii, you might be able to hack it and attach an external drive and play.
That sounds like the most horrible thing I could imagine doing. Ugh, terrible. It must remain in its unvarnished state.
Whatever. So you got some decisions to make.
And then I guess a couple other of the big announcements from Nintendo. You had WarioWare. Get It Together, I think is the name.
What did you think of that? Because I'm glad to see WarioWare back, but I'm also I don't know, I wasn't convinced by the gimmick of moving little little Wario around to interact with things.
I thought that was kind of an odd choice. It's a new approach to the mechanics because they're saying that each character can be moved around like that and that they each have a different way of interacting. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I think of the Game Boy Advance WarioWare, so the first WarioWare, and that didn't have any control gimmicks. It was just the D-pad and the buttons. So I know WarioWare can work that way. But in terms of this new dynamic... Like, I'll be honest, I probably won't play any of it two-player because I don't care about two-player for anything, really. But in terms of, like, if I'm going to sit down and do the one-player experience and it's just button controls, I have hope it's going to be good. I think it does speak to the absence of a dedicated handheld because the WarioWare series really found a home on, DS and then even 3DS with WarioWare Gold. Like, it just fits with the touchscreen and everything else, but...
So,
I guess we'll see.
Aonuma said, while we have no other campaigns or Nintendo Switch games planned, we have been working very hard on the Zelda Game & Watch to commemorate the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. So that's what he said.
So that actually is fairly open-ended.
Yeah.
A little bit of wiggle room right there.
Yeah. He could mean we don't have anything planned. That doesn't mean we won't do anything. Or it could mean this is it. I hope you like it.
Yeah.
So that was still upsetting because Nintendo knows that Zelda, people are asking, they want to know, what are you doing for it? The other thing that's odd is that even when Zelda's 35th came and went, like the actual date in February, they didn't say anything. They didn't acknowledge it on social media. It was nothing. It was just dead silence. What's odd is, like, in watching the trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, which was another thing that I had mixed feelings on. It's clearly it's got some Skyward inspired mechanics going on and visuals going on. I mean, excuse me. They're even saying, Aonuma is even saying, like, we're opening up the skies above Hyrule this time. And so I really don't know if, like, re-releasing Skyward is supposed to be like a little, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're like, oh, we did it for the 25th. Now we're doing it for the 35th. And look, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out, and we're pulling some elements from Skyward. And I don't know if, like, they think that some sort of Zelda 35 celebration is going to take away some of the thunder from the Skyward re-release or what. But it is a little bit odd just because Skyward being announced, I don't think would have garnered as much hype and enthusiasm as another game. So it's just kind of like, well, you don't really have to worry about taking away the thunder of Skyward because it's cool, but...
I feel like Nintendo's been a little weird since the new guy took over, whose name I can never remember.
Yeah.
Because after Iwata died, there was the placeholder guy running the company, and then there's new guy, and I know new guy's a little on the younger side, and then Reggie's gone, and so we have Doug Bowser. But between the two of them, they lack a certain something that Reggie and Iwata both had. Like, Doug, he seems like a nice guy. I'm not saying anything bad about him, but he doesn't excite me the way Reggie did. And, like, I didn't even totally buy into Reggie as this, like, hardcore gamer guy. Now, I'm not discrediting Reggie as a gamer. I believe he is. He has talked about certain things that at least suggest in his youth he was definitely playing games, but...
I get what you mean. Like, it's not even about him being a gamer. It's that he was more of a showman, right?
And his personality, too. Like, his... I mean, there's the reason we have all these memes of Reggie, right? Like, he was this imposing figure, kind of a gentle giant. And yeah, he could sell you on what was coming out. And then Iwata, he was interesting too because he just had this kind of charming personality, whereas the new guy doesn't even show up for the directs. Like, he doesn't get on the camera. He's not part of the fun. So that part's been a little lame. But then also I wonder what his direction has been, because under him, there's been more of the kind of mobile initiative. And I mean, I don't hate that stuff completely, but I do think that some of it has a lot of blatant cash grab going on. Like,
Yes.
I was playing Mario Kart Tour hardcore for a while, but after I blew a sizable chunk of money trying to get hold of, I think it was the Black Shy Guy. It was either him or the Chef Shy Guy. I was like, what is going on here? And then...
You mean with you or the game?
With the game, of course. Thank you.
Why were you blowing money on...
I believe I used the words either Black or Chef Shy Guy. Need I say more?
Yeah, why were you blowing money on this?
Quiet down over there, Shy Guy. So, like, under him, there's been the push for that, and then... I don't know what it is. I can't remember if Nintendo came up with the whole we don't want to show anything until it's like really close to releasing mandate. But I feel like under this guy, it's been much more, hardcore in terms of enforcement. And I don't know that that's always to Nintendo's benefit. It's like, I know that Metroid Prime 4 has gone through probably some serious rebuilds ever since they took it away from Namco. But you can't tell me Retro doesn't have something. And that they couldn't have put together a 1-minute stinger.
Well, you know how this stuff works. Like sometimes stuff gets changed closer to release date, right?
But honestly, who
no, like
cares?
this happened with people do care though, right?
Yeah,
like with
let 'em
Witcher,
burn.
there was a lot of negativity around the release of Witcher 3 because it didn't look as good as earlier demos had looked. Same thing happened with Dark Souls 2 when that came out because the lighting didn't look as good as it had looked in earlier demos. And sometimes there are whole features that are cut out, right? People are going to latch onto that and complain.
Show a screenshot and a couple of what are they called? Preliminary drawings of her armor or something. I don't know. I feel like there's just something that doesn't feel right, and I have a hard time putting a finger on it, and it has ruined some of the fun the past few years. I mean, for a minute they were kind of talking about, like, not even doing Nintendo Directs. Like, maybe they'll just do these little small focused whatever. It's like, look, Nintendo Directs are great. Just keep doing them. Who's sitting at corporate like, do we really want to keep doing the Nintendo Directs? Like, yes!
Right. In the interest of, maybe refocusing this on E3 rather than general dislike at Nintendo's direction, how did you both... Because I think the answer might be you're a little negative about it. How, Angela, did you feel about the more Skyward Sword-ish slant to the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer?
I mean, I wasn't digging it, and it doesn't help that I'm already pretty lukewarm on Breath of the Wild. And so then you add in elements of my least favorite Zelda game. It's not
I don't have any
boding
kind
well.
of, really warmth for Skyward Sword, but I will say that the Sky Islands or flying through the sky aspect of Skyward Sword is not what turned me off to Skyward Sword. I do think that is kind of a cool setting.
One thing that Zach had noticed, and I thought I had noticed this as well, was that when it seems like there's kind of two different versions of Link visible in the trailer. There's Link, and it looks like he's in his blue tunic, hair in a ponytail. But then there seems to be this kind of wild man version of Link, like long hair, longer.
And I think that
hair.
version has the thing on his arm, right?
Yeah. Or like a weird possessed arm or something.
Is it more of like a toga kind of outfit?
Yeah. And so Zach had noticed that you'd never see the kind of wild man version of Link's face, but you see regular Link's face. And so there's this question of why is that? Seemed pretty deliberate and intentional. And Zach had mentioned that he kind of almost looks like the corpse that they found in the basement of the castle or wherever in the first trailer. And so I have this question of, okay, well, does that mean that Link is possessed by the spirit of Ganon? Is that why Link is wearing kind of arm coverings that have the Gerudo pattern? In Breath of the Wild, he's wearing those. Was that some sort of kind of tell that this was going to happen? Were they planning this for a long time? I mean, there's just a lot of questions that trailers open up, and this one certainly opened up a lot of questions for me.
I couldn't help but have kind of a moment of dark laughter because, everyone who's talking about Breath of the Wild 2 for a while now, so is Zelda going to be playable? Or is it going to switch back and forth? And then, the first few moments of the trailer, it's her being sucked into some kind of vortex. It's oh, well, I guess there goes playable Zelda.
I had the same feeling. I was like, oh, well, there goes
Bunch of
that.
people on Twitter, of course they're getting rid of Zelda again.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't know if that's
okay.
like that might be a misdirect, right? Sometimes these.
She's gonna be like Peach in Paper Mario, where you have like little moments where you get to platform as her and Zelda and Ganon's Castle or something. But for me, the sky, whatever. I thought the sky ended up being the weakest part of Skyward Sword, because where you had all these little islands to go to in
Wind
Wind
Waker.
Waker, there was way less to do in the Sky Islands in Skyward. And, you know, maybe Breath of the Wild 2 will do a better job with it. I want underwater. So, like, don't put me in the air, put me under the water. Like, that whole area and aspect of Zelda I love, because I love water in games anyway. But
I would pay double for the game if you can't go underwater. And seriously,
I'll pay triple.
You can't afford to outbid me.
Anyway. And then dungeons. Dungeons need to come back. Like, I don't care if the shrines remain. I thought they were cool, but I want full-fledged dungeons. Like, that to me was a major missing part of Breath of the Wild. So if they can bring both those elements in, if I can swim properly, and if there are real dungeons to get into, I think that will be that'll help really push this one over the edge.
Yeah.
And then I guess because we don't want to focus on Nintendo the whole time, you want to end with Advance Wars.
Yeah.
Zach has some strong
Because that
feelings.
is a Zach series.
Yeah.
I
Let
really
you take it away, Zach.
I really adore Advance Wars 2, Black Hole Rising, and Advance Wars Dual Strike. I never really got as into Days of Ruin, which is the most recent one from 13 years ago, and the series just kind of died after the original DS. It kind of would have been like a dream for me for Advance Wars to come back. I still have a lot of fondness for that series. And I found myself really frustrated and disappointed by the announcement that there was actually going to be a remaster of the first 2 Advance Wars games, the 2 Game Boy Advance games for the Switch. Both because I don't know, like I'm not opposed to remasters, you know, changing some things and then asking for like full retail price on top of that. But these are like I don't know. So they're adding online multiplayer, which is good, but it's still like fundamentally 2 Game Boy Advance games that Nintendo sold for like, I think $8 each on the Wii U. And it's now like $60 for the 2 of them. So that rankles a little, but for me, the bigger issue is I really do not like the look of it. You know, like it's
This is what he was alluding to at the beginning when he was asking what else is Way Forward going to quote unquote ruin.
Yeah. Like when I found out that this was being developed by Way Forward, I was like, well, of course it is, because I have not liked the look or the design decisions made by, I think, any Way Forward game. After enjoying Shovel Knight, I was almost surprised to learn that Yacht Club had been made of people who previously worked at Way Forward, because I just assumed that was some like cavern of terrible decisions that nothing good would ever come out of. But yeah, I like for Advance Wars specifically, you know, to the extent that they're just re-releasing the game in HD with online multiplayer added, that's cool. But the art direction for the remasters and in particular the loss of like some really gorgeous pixel art when it comes to the war machines in that game. I just think the combat scenes in the remaster look terrible. I really do. I can't imagine playing that and be happy.
I'm not sure if I've ever known anyone who hates Way Forward this much. I do think it's odd, and I think, again, it speaks to that kind of tone deafness with some of the larger Japanese developers. So it's like, will Nintendo hit it out of the park sometimes when they go in a different visual direction? Well, like Link's Awakening is a good example. I think that game looks beautiful myself. But with Advance Wars, I found it particularly strange because I'm like, Way Forward is known for really beautiful pixel art. Why would you take that company, who could probably easily convert all of the Advance Wars pixel art from the first games into like widescreen and HD? Instead, they're like, no, turn it into this hand-drawn style.
I actually kind of wonder if it has something to do with Nintendo's obsession with, if we're going to bring back a game, it has to have something new in it.
I think that's part of it.
I think they're more like just aping popular animation styles with the kids these days. Because, like, you know, maybe in terms of like character design animation, the original Advance Wars would be seen as outdated in like the kind of anime look those characters have.
I mean, I guess it's just a little weird because, you know, now we have so many, especially indie games, that harken back to, you know, 8-bit graphics and you know, retro styling. And so it's almost like what is not good is not the right word I'm thinking, but like, where do they draw a line in the sand? You know, like, okay, this is acceptable retro styling versus no, this isn't good. This looks too retro, or this looks too archaic. So I'm not really sure where the distinction is drawn.
I actually do think, though, that to Zach's point, like, I think that by doing what they've done with the visual style, they are doing what they did with Ocarina, where when they did Ocarina 3D, they're like, well, this is what we wanted it to look like the whole time, in quotation marks. Because of the art style of the original Advance Wars, they're probably like, well, this is what they would have made it look like if, you know, the Game Boy had let them, that kind of thing. But I don't know, like, I've noticed, because like even some of the just static art that I've seen in some of the promotional materials lacks the weight of the art of the original games. Like, I'd almost feel a little better about it if it was mimicking that original artwork more, because that art had some really awesome, just like line variation and the color, all of it was great. And maybe, again, to Zach's point, maybe they thought it looked a little too early 2000s or something. But regardless, maybe, I mean, there's a couple things. If you think of what some of the indie studios are doing with their retro revivals, like especially in terms of some of the spiritual successors, it probably creates an interesting dynamic for companies like Nintendo. Because take
Wargroove.
Well, Wargroove, but what was the other one? Tiny something?
Tiny Metal?
Tiny Metal, yes. Tiny Metal is way more like Advance Wars because it actually has, you know, the war machines and stuff. That game has a really beautiful art style. It's 3-dimensional. It does not have pixel art. And I think sells for a fraction of the cost of this upcoming remake. So that might make it a little harder for Nintendo to push certain games if they're like, well, if we were to just re-release the pixel version, even if we upscaled it to, you know, 1080 and it's widescreen, someone might look and say, well, I could get Tiny Metal, you know, for $10 or whatever it is, and it looks, you know, better or whatever. So they probably have to deal with that a little bit.
Sure.
But I think one other factor that might be at play...
But what they've done is take, like for the War Machines, they've made it look more like Tiny Metal, right? It's no longer like the exquisitely done, cutely animated pixel War Machines. So they've lost that edge.
Yeah. Well, I think that maybe if there's one other element at play here, it's that they might be trying to gear up the series for bigger things later. Because Fire Emblem didn't become what it is right now until Awakening. And before Awakening, when Intelligent Systems was working on Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, they were both these games with pixel art. And then you get to Awakening, and suddenly you have the more advanced visual style, and then it continues to get more and more elaborate with each installment in terms of gameplay. So maybe Nintendo's like, all right, we're going to set up Advance Wars here, where we're re-releasing the first two games. If it really does well, maybe we'll let Way Forward handle a more ambitious, you know, next game. And then all of a sudden, you know, maybe this is the game that sets Advance Wars on fire. Who knows?
Look, if this is what it takes to get a new Advance Wars game and Nintendo promises that Way Forward is not going to be the developer, then maybe I'll buy it. But
my God.
All right, I feel like we've been pretty negative aside from Metroid Dread.
Well, I mean, you know, I can't fake.
I'm not asking you to fake it, but like, are there other things that you?
WarioWare, I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
I'm like Robert, where I'm not going to do any 2-player stuff.
Sure,
I'm excited for that, and I am excited for Advance Wars. I prefer the old style, but I don't hate the new style, and I really want to play it.
I had a game I was just about to talk about, and I lost it. Let's see, from Nintendo. Oh, Well, I thought it was a little bit odd that they decided to throw in Mario Golf when Mario Golf was already announced in the...
I know, it's like it's coming next Friday. I don't need to see this right now, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, and like that was kind of what fueled a little bit of my disappointment with Nintendo, because I feel like there were some pretty big expectations for Nintendo this year, and they kind of dropped the ball. And one of those things was announcing quote unquote Mario Golf. It's like we just saw this during the Direct, which came way too late. You should have had a Direct way before, and so it felt a little bit like filler. Like, well, we don't really have anything else, so just throw in Mario Golf, and also, we also want to push sales because it's coming out soon. So that kind of sucked, but I am looking forward to Mario Golf. I like the Mario Golf games a lot. They were fun. Anything and everything I know about golf, I only know because of Mario Golf.
Yep.
And Mario Golf makes me think of my childhood and teenage years. So I'm actually looking forward to that. I just thought it was lame of Nintendo to throw it in like it was something new.
I think closing Nintendo thought they should have... Well, I was disappointed not to see the Switch Pro or the new Nintendo Switch, as it's probably going to end up getting called. I get it, though. I think ultimately if they decided they didn't want to show it, it was probably because this E3 was slightly more traditional in that there were all these announcements that came out simultaneously. So if they're going to announce the new Nintendo Switch, I have a feeling they're going to want that to just dominate the news cycle. And it's probably not coming out until like Christmas. So they're probably thinking, we'll do an announcement for Switch Pro in August probably, and then say this is coming, November, 2021. So it still was kind of lame though, because I get how, E3's transformed over the years and E3 is no longer the way to get your news out there, but it's a big deal. Like, treat it like a big deal. Tell us about your hardware, for this. It would have been pretty cool, especially because Xbox and PlayStation, the new systems are already out. So everyone's just kind of waiting to see what Nintendo has next. So it would have been kind of big to see it there. But
Sure.
Mario Party Superstars, that looks fun. Probably definitely going to get that and play with our cousins. I thought it was cool that it has this focus on N64 and bringing back boards and games from N64 and GameCube. So that looks fun.
Let me just throw out a few things that are not Nintendo specific, but which I am looking forward to. Mm-hmm. Plague Tale Requiem looked pretty cool. I haven't played the first Plague Tale, but it takes place like during the time of the Black Death, and there's like just a ton of like swarms of rats you're dealing with.
What kind of genre? What genre?
Realistic looking third person adventure, I think.
Okay, what consoles is that coming out on? Platforms, I mean?
I think PS4 and Xbox and PC.
Cool.
I know that... or sorry, maybe PS5. I'm not sure what platforms. I know that the first Plague Tale, which looked cool, but I never picked up to try, was on Xbox One, among other things. But the second one looked really cool, so maybe I'll give the first one another look. There's the Mario and Rabbids sequel that Ubisoft is making, Spark of Hope.
that does look good. My friend was a little bit dismayed about the fact that you can move now, like kind of free movement as opposed to the grid-based movement. And I was like, well, maybe they thought it would make it simpler. And he was like, well, the grid-based is pretty simple. So he thought it was an odd change.
I do think it's an odd change. But, I was telling Angela, like, I was actually not sure if I wanted to get Sparks of Hope, even though I really liked the first Mario and Rabbids, because I kind of felt like that was enough. So if they're going to switch it to freeform unit placement and have that, and that opens up like new wrinkles to the combat, maybe that's for the best.
Shout out to Nintendo Joe contributor Nick Dollar. That is the friend who told me that. I think my only problem with the Rabbids series is I hate the Rabbids. I don't think they're funny.
They're hideous and unfunny, but for some reason, like, the presence of these hideous, unfunny things in the Mushroom Kingdom, even though I don't like them, I do like the juxtaposition.
I kind of feel bad for them.
Oh, of course you do.
Yeah, I think they're cute in their own right, but I also they have some funny kind of little moments. Like in the trailer, I was watching the Peach Rabbid. She does something and then she gets all disappointed and looks kind of sad sack.
And Rycon Games, the developers of what is that called? Ruiner. They're making another game.
It looks
Ruiner
a little.
2?
No, it's like a not third person. It's a first person like sci-fi shooter, and you can turn into something that looks an awful lot like a morph ball.
Yeah. I had mixed feelings. Sci-fi, with the exception of some series. Overall, I'm not super big on sci-fi. It looks very good from the few seconds of actual footage you see, but I don't know. I can't really make a call on whether or not I'm going to be interested in that yet.
Yeah.
So it's Ruiner Prime.
Yeah.
But for me, like far and away, the things I'm most interested about are things I already knew existed. It was just like trailers from like Breath of the Wild 2 is still one of my most anticipated games. I thought the trailer looked good. I would have liked more, but I thought like the verticality looked interesting. Whatever, give me more. But the big winner for me was maybe inevitably going to be Elden Ring.
Yeah, that's been getting teased for a while, right?
For a long time. They might have announced it too early. It's taken longer than expected. Dark Souls 3 came out in like 2015, 16, maybe 17. I don't know. But like regardless, it has been a long time since a Dark Souls game has come out. And Dark Souls 3 felt, I don't know, a little derivative of the first Dark Souls in particular. So I'm excited to see the next thing, even if it's basically just a big open world Dark Souls game. But I thought it looked really good. So I'm excited to see any bit of it. And it's coming out early next year, and definitely my most anticipated game.
Did Microsoft confirm Halo for Christmas?
For Christmas? I don't know. Maybe.
Should have done some research on that, I guess. I know that for me with Xbox, that's what I'm looking forward to most is the next Halo game. I thought the mini fridge looked cool. I want that mini fridge. The
What?
Xbox Series mini
No,
fridge.
I know what you're talking about. I just
yeah.
don't understand why you would want it.
Because it's cool.
This is why these companies can get away with making
Selling cool things.
nonsense instead of making games. Like
Cool
if
things
they
that cool
couldn't
things.
make money
Get
off of
that?
a mini fridge, they would have to like double down on making games. If Nintendo couldn't make money on this useless little Game & Watch thing, they would have to find something else useful, like an actual game to release.
I believe I just said that it is a cool thing that cools things.
Yeah,
that sounds useful
I'm
to me.
looking at it right now.
Yeah.
This is actually really neat.
Yeah. Just think when we're at my home and you want a tasty cold drink, it'll be coming out of that.
Although, yeah, it really is mini. It's cool. I mean, this green light that when it opens up and this kind of sleek look. I'm sorry, Zach, but this is neat.
I do think that Microsoft's, their aggressive. Whoa, Zach's getting angry over here. Anyway, the Microsoft's approach is interesting so far because I think the rumor is that, according to Zach, the rumor is that Microsoft wants to get Game Pass from PS5, like basically get PS5, Xbox Series games streaming onto Xbox One.
And specifically onto as many things as they can. So they also announced that they're going to have like xCloud, like the cloud-based stuff, working through the browser, and working on like smart TV apps, and that they might sell like a Stadia style standalone, like only xCloud streaming unit too. So they're really trying to expand this. I don't understand how Stadia or Luma. I think that's what Amazon's Luna, is supposed to.
Luna,
I don't understand how those are supposed to compete with Game Pass when Game Pass has all this like infrastructure that it's inherited from the actual Xbox console.
Yeah, well, plus, I mean, Microsoft is miles ahead of any of them in terms of adoption of all of its networks, its hardware. Windows-based things are everywhere, and that in and of itself makes it easier for them to, I think, make this happen. Not to mention the game catalog that they have, because it's like between Google and Amazon, they don't have any kind of IPs that anyone cares about. It's like anything they have is going to be third party, and it's going to be something that's already on Xbox anyway. So like the advantage that Microsoft has here is probably greater than anyone.
It's a much bigger value proposition because they can, like with Game Pass, they can be like, oh, well, you already have an Xbox. if you subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate, you can also stream games on your phone or blah, 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 blah. Or they can say like, oh, if you're interested in a streaming service, maybe you should consider Xbox because we have all these other games you can play on your laptop and blah, blah. So that just like, it's much easier because it's a much bigger value they're offering.
Yeah, bigger value. I mean, I'm opposed to streaming. I think I've mentioned this in the podcast before. I don't like the idea of you're endlessly paying for it versus you buy a game and you own the game. Because that's the other thing, too. You don't own anything when you're streaming. But and then I guess another limitation that pops up in my mind is, latency issues and that network connectivity, especially in different parts of just the U.S., is spotty. So, like, if you're on the coast, you're probably going to be good. But if you're playing in the middle of wherever USA, it's probably not going to work for you. I know my internet connection is bad enough that I couldn't get Stadia to run the way it needed to at my house, and I live in the Bay Area. So, I wonder about that. I feel like, we'll get there eventually. We're going to get to a point where connectivity of the internet is nothing. Like, it is no big deal. When that is, who knows? But I think Microsoft has their eye on, hey, I think Zach actually used, the whole razor blade and the razors analogy that Nintendo's famous for, where it's like, hey, we make the razor and the blades that go with it. Well, Microsoft is like, hey, every time we make the razor, we don't make a profit on it. I think they came out and said that Microsoft has not sold an Xbox system for a profit at any point. So they're probably thinking, all we got to do is get the Xbox hardware working on our end, never sell an Xbox to anybody, and then just get them to pay to rent our games forever. And thus, they're like, I don't care what you play it on. As long as it's enabled to run xCloud, we're good. So I think they think that they're getting ahead of the curve a little bit, but we'll see what happens. I do hope consumers get to a point where it's like, well, the value might kind of be there, but they're also creeping into you more when they do the streaming stuff. So
yeah, I feel like, the things that I was most excited by during E3 and Summer Game Fest were Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild 2. But in terms of like most interesting, I think it's like these continuing announcements from Microsoft, because I find them to be more interesting, more surprising in terms of the decisions they're making versus Sony or Nintendo.
I get a kick out of what is happening right now with Xbox because, if we pretend that Nintendo's not part of the big three, that they're doing their own thing, then that means right now Xbox is second to PlayStation. And so, if you think about what's been happening over the years, you had PlayStation dominate, PlayStation 2 super dominate, and then PlayStation 3 comes and you have the ridiculous, the Spider-Man 3 logo on the top of the system and the Ridge Racer E3. And then what was it, $500 when it came out? It was some ridiculous amount of money. And then here's the 360, and it has really good network play. And all of a sudden, Microsoft has gone from being an interesting new addition with Xbox to we're in charge now with Xbox 360. But lost in the conversation is that when Xbox One came out and PlayStation 4 was coming out, Xbox totally shot themselves in the foot because they were out there saying it's going to be online all the time. And then people were like, well, what about people who want to play and maybe they don't have internet all the time or whatever, or can't get internet? And they're like,
said, we have a console for them. It's called Xbox 360.
And that did not go over well. And then
fancy this.
And then they also had the idea of they were going to make it so you couldn't play used games on their system either. And Sony, who was incredibly cunning, went from effing up with PS3, and they recovered a little bit, but with PS4, they're like, oh, you can play used games on our system, and guess what? It doesn't need to be online all the time. They were like, oh, what you're doing that no one likes, we're just going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And it had this massive effect on people. And for the entire life cycle of the One and the PS4, Microsoft was playing catch up after that. They just screwed themselves with that launch.
It is actually, like, if you look at the hardware sales, I think PlayStation 3 actually ended up outselling the 360 over their lifespan.
Towards the end, because when they did the redesign and the Slim came out, not only was it slimmer, it had a better logo, and then the marketing got better. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should probably wrap it up. I know we got places to go.
Oh, let me just finish my point real quick. So in terms of now, the series really should be doing better if you think about it. It's like it's backwards compatible. You can play all of your old games on it, and like it seems more consumer friendly in a lot of ways, but they're still trailing. It's just kind of odd.
They're trailing in exclusives, right? And they've been like making up that ground, but they had focused more on like infrastructure stuff, like Game Pass deals, and now they're also trying to focus more on they've been buying a lot of studios to get exclusives, right?
Bethesda deal is a big deal.
So we'll see how that plays out. You've been listening to
The 8th Minute.
The 8th Minute. That's right.
And also, this day we are recording, it is Father's Day.
Yeah. So happy Father's Day.
Happy
Father's Day
to all you fathers out there.
That's right.
Hope you're playing games with your kids and your dads, if they're into that.
And don't go easy on your kids.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. They only learn by failing.
Yeah.
Grind them into the dirt.